Hi, and welcome to the Teaching Corner. Today we're going to do the last video in our series on exercises. The first video that we did was about calming the central nervous system down. The last video we did was about alerting or getting the blood flowing so that students are more awake in class. This last set of exercises, some of the ones that we've already talked about will be repeated, but these are crossing midline. If you were to draw an imaginary line down your body, this would be called the midline. We have two lobes in our brain, the right and the left, and oftentimes what happens is those two sides don't communicate. You can see this, especially if you're doing, say, like a hand clapping exercise or something with the kids, and they're always pushing out to the front, and they're never crossing their nose. Crossing midline is really important. For example, I was doing multiplication facts with my 7th grade students one year, and we were not doing well. And these were facts that they'd studied for years and years, but they were having a really hard time. And I said, okay guys, we're going to stop and we're going to do a cross midline and then we'll come back to this. And so we spent about 1 to 2 minutes doing a cross midline exercise, and then we went back to our multiplication facts, and all of a sudden they started getting them right and left. And the only major difference was we got those two sides of the brain communicating with each other so that they were able to do their assignment. So remember too, as you're doing these, you want them to cross the midline. Sometimes you're going to have kids want to do this or turn their body, and that's still staying on the same side of the brain. So you want that crossover to happen. So our first exercise is just elbow to knee, which we've done before. Another one is marching. And when they march, you know, have their fists coming across their bodies. Another good one is the army crawl, which I won't demonstrate, but that's where you do your left arm and right leg. And then this one, and it's two sides of the brain working in tandem. Another fun one is lazy 8. So you take your hands and you put them in front of you, and then you slice through the air to make an 8. This is an incredibly telling exercise. You can always see who's having a difficult time with their right and left brain communicating because they won't draw an 8. They'll draw all kinds of crazy stuff, but they won't be able to draw an 8. So sometimes you have to come behind them and help them, and then all of a sudden, once they get that motion, they're able to do it themselves. Another one is the washing machine. So you're just getting them to twist their bodies and twist their arms in an opposite direction. Another fun one is hand clapping exercises. This is really interesting, and you can make up different ones. When I was growing up, there were all kinds of little songs that went with them. But many students, they're not going to be able to do it. And it's funny, as you go on, as you continue to do these and they speed up, then sometimes it almost becomes a competition, like who can do it the fastest. But again, this is a good one to show you who's having trouble with their right and left side of the brain communicating together. Another fun one is cross punches, because there's nothing more fun in the world than to actually get to punch your teacher. So I'll stand there with my hands like this, and the kids will punch my hands. When my husband was teaching in the classroom, he actually bought a pair of boxing gloves, and he would, right before a test, encourage the kids and say, we're going to knock this test out. And they would come to the front of the class and do a couple cross punches before they would take their test or quiz. Another good one before a test is to cross your arms, grab your earlobes, and rub. You have pressure points in your earlobes, and when you rub them, they have a very calming effect. So this actually does two different things. It helps calm the students down if they're nervous about a test, and it also helps to cross midline. Another good one is the windmill, and this is going to take your right hand down to your left toe and then left hand to your right toe. This is good for two different reasons. Not only are you crossing midline, but make sure those students stand back up before they go to the next one. Some of them are just going to want to do this. Make sure they stand up, because that inversion causes lots of good blood flow to the brain. And we talked about in one of our previous videos that that really helps the brain get activated. The last one I want to show you is called the Vowel Cook. This one has had lots and lots of research done on it. It's a really good exercise to do right before a test. What you're going to have your student do is they're going to take their foot and place it on the opposite knee, and then you want them to cross their hands, and they're going to use this. In this case, it's the right hand is going to grab the top of the foot and the left hand is going to grab the bottom of the foot. This is incredibly telling. When I would do this with students, you could again see who was struggling with the right and left communicating with each other because they couldn't figure out how to grab the top and bottom of their foot. Then you're going to have the students imagine that they're a puppet on a string and that there's a string running straight through their head. So they're going to breathe in, and as they breathe in, you want them to sit up just as tall as they possibly can. And then they'll breathe out, and you'll do this 3 times. So they'll breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. This exercise actually does all 3 things. It calms the students down because of the deep breathing. It crosses midline, so it gets both of those parts of the brain thinking together. And it's alerting because we're creating good blood flow to the brain. Then the students will do it on the opposite side. They'll put their right foot on their left knee, cross their hands, grab the top and bottom, and breathe in and out 3 times on that side. So I hope these videos have been helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe, share it with others, and I'll see you later. Bye.